The occult, it's a beautiful philosophy. The word mystery is a teaching which contains much more than it seems to contain. And over time, as it is mapped onto your reality around you, it kind of unfolds. The main ingredient in any magic is you. And you come with a mountain of baggage, of preferences, of fears, of assumptions. And so you have to try things out to find out what actually does work for you, what resonates with you, what feels comfortable to you, what feels exciting to you.
Someone is starting from square one and is just interested in getting started, what would you do? The container is now open. What actually is the occult, and why here in the 21st century is it still the best set of technologies to understand and create our own reality? Well, we brought on Denis Poisson, who leads the incredibly popular YouTube channel Foolish Fish, which introduces people to everything from beginner occult and magic tutorials to in-depth analysis of books and the latest in occult publishing. And so there's really no one better, I think, to talk to about the basics of occultism and how you can practically and easily jump into this world without having to, study for years and years. Like, what's a real practical, easy way to experiment? Denis delivers all of that and more. But before we get into this fascinating interview that I think is really important in our day and age, we've got to get a shout out to our patrons. They went to patreon.com/thecontainer and they committed to small monthly donations. Other ways you can support the show: rate and review on Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Those things actually really, really help. And we rely on y'all's kindness to keep the container growing and bringing you conversations just like this. So for those who have chosen to support us, thank you. And for those who are about to support us for the first time, thank you too. And now, our conversation with Denis Poisson, Foolish Fish. The first question is so spring-loaded because it's such a huge topic. But the listeners out there, they've got to know, what really is the occult? We hear this word, it seems mysterious in and of itself. What is it?
It's an enormous question. Thank you for asking it. What is the occult? So occult means hidden, and it often gets amalgamated with the word esoteric. And to me, those are two different things. They sometimes overlap in what they're describing, but I think in order to describe the occult, it might make sense to differentiate it from esotericism. Well, what does the word esoteric mean? And esoteric differentiates itself from exoteric. So for any religious, let's say, movement, for any religion, the core of it is going to have really two parts that kind of play with each other. And so you have the kind of things that you do, right? The places you go, the words you say, maybe the clothes you wear, the specific practices that can be observed from the outside. Yeah. So if somebody sees you saying this particular kind of these particular words of worship, then you're probably this religion, and then this other group of words of worship, you're probably from that religion, and this is how an outsider can tell you are practicing your spirituality from this particular current, right? But the word esoteric means what's happening on the inside. And so it's not visible from the exterior. It's completely the inner experience of what happens when you put all of this into practice. And some would suggest that that's more important than the external manifestation of whatever practice you may have, right? Whatever religion it is that you're following. And so that is the difference between exoteric and esoteric. Many people follow the exoteric forms of their religion. You know, they know that they're supposed to do this on particular days. They're supposed to, eat these things and not eat those things. They're supposed to say these words. They're supposed to have these opinions even, or whatever it might be. And then you've got groups, very often maligned groups within each of these religions. The exoteric majority don't particularly like these little esoteric minorities. But these little esoteric groups will say, do you know what? It doesn't really matter what you say, how you do it, et cetera, et cetera. These are all tools for accessing a core experience, and it's the core experience that matters. And maybe there are even better ways or different ways or ways that kind of go against the mainstream current that achieve those results that this religion is claiming to achieve, but doesn't for so many people, right? So in each religious group, you're going to have these little esoteric cells, right? So then, what is the occult? Well, the occult is going to be the practices that are not the mainstream practices from whatever religious group. They're going to be practices that have been shown to be very potent, like extremely potent for having certain spiritual experiences, for manifesting certain spiritual effects on the world around us. And so, because they're so potent, they have to be kept at least hidden one way or another. And in the West, we've kept those hidden by creating an aura of fear around them, right? So it's not so much that they're hidden and that, you have to find out the secrets no, it's all available in books and stuff, but most people won't access those books. Most people won't access those teachings because it's from the devil, and if you do, you'll go to hell. Okay, so
which is not good.
Yeah, exactly.
We do not want to do that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So this is something that I absolutely say to anyone who reaches out to me. If you're doing something that's making you worried that you might end up in hell, don't do it. Just find out a little bit more first of all. Work it out, slowly at your own pace, and only do the things that you're comfortable doing. And I think that most people who do that do absolutely fine in the occult. It's people who kind of push through the fear and go like, yeah, embrace, eternal damnation. Yeah, let's go, kind of thing. And those people, yeah, they tend to experience difficulties along the way of many varieties, but it's not a necessary path, right? You don't have to go the difficult way, the so-called left-hand path, which is something to describe as well, isn't it? Okay. So the left-hand path, what does that mean? Well, a lot of people in the West have taken it to mean the path of subversion, right? So just do whatever society doesn't like, and that's the left-hand path. I think that's a big mistake. I've actually made a video about that. The left-hand path actually comes to us from Eastern religion, from specifically tantric Hinduism, which again is grossly misrepresented in the West, but yeah, probably don't have time to go into that. But yes, it's not just sex positions. In fact, it's kind of not sex positions at all. It's like maybe 0.5%, and it's just for a very select few. That's not what Tantra is at all. Tantra is an esoteric form of Hinduism, right? That has occult practices, and it embraces a very difficult path, right? A path that will, in fact, make your life fall apart. Once your life has fallen apart, there's really nowhere else to turn to but the perfect original source of it all, kind of thing, right? The so-called Brahman and mind at large, or whatever it is, right? And so the left-hand path is definitely not the path of hedonism and do whatever you want. Do what thou wilt is not a left-hand path teaching, although it's kind of thought of as a left-hand path teaching of Aleister Crowley. It's nothing to do with do whatever you want. It's follow your divine will. Again, lots and lots of philosophy around the occult. It's a beautiful philosophy, and it's a vast philosophy that we have access to in the West, but that we're not typically very tapped into, and we seem to be rediscovering it a little bit.
That's such a beautifully concise answer to a question that really can be quite expansive. The mystery behind it.
Yeah. There is just so much misconception around it. It's difficult to kind of capture in just a few words, for sure.
Something that you brought up about how the occult is kind of, by definition, it's hidden, occluded.
Mm-hmm.
And in the West nowadays, I mean, several centuries ago, this wasn't the case, but you won't be thrown in jail if you have books, if
right.
You have like the Lesser Keys of Solomon, it's not dangerous to just read them out in public.
That's right.
And with the internet, you don't even need to buy a book. I mean, all of these books are like, especially the ones that are centuries old, you can just print them off, read them on your phone. So access is not at all a limiting factor, and yet they're still hidden somehow. Even the more you get you dive into these, my experience too is that a lot of the resources you find on it, suspiciously, like, they don't feel true or right. Like it feels misleading, a lot of the content you'll find, or it's like this weird hallways in the dark, and it reminds me of the phrase we'll use, the Western mysteries, and that mystery is always still at the core, and that ultimately you just gotta do it. Like, you gotta go in yourself. And to me, that is so fascinating that you can hand someone the book, it can say in plain language the occult mystery, and that ain't enough. What?
Absolutely. I mean, the word mystery is perfectly encapsulating exactly what you just said. Ultimately, the word mystery is a teaching which contains much more than it seems to contain. And over time, as it's applied as it's understood further, as it is mapped onto your reality around you, it kind of unfolds. Right, so that's the idea
Beautiful.
of a mystery. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very, very interested in the mysteries, the Western mysteries. Indeed, you're right.
Mm.
Um, uh, um, and so, what you were saying earlier on about these books just not really containing everything. I mean, you're completely right. Ultimately, these grimoires that we have access to today, they are the working notes of practitioners, right? Of magic practitioners. And those working notes are not necessarily to be read by others. Okay, so they're maybe handed down from a teacher to a student, and the student would just take the notes that the student needed, right? And so we have a lot of these manuscripts with "do the usual," and it's only very recently with the release of the Summa Sacrae Magicae, which Dr. Stephen Skinner has recently translated and is getting a second translation actually as we speak. So all within the past year and a bit, kind of thing. Is very, very fresh, where the usual is kind of being explicitly written out, and very interesting stuff. But ultimately, you're completely right. All of this stuff is stuff that you can experience and that you can realize and that you can hone by doing it. There's no other way. You can read all about it. Ultimately, you are reading about another practitioner's way of accessing this stuff. One of the things that I say very often on my channel and to anyone who'll listen is that the main ingredient in any magic is you, the practitioner. And you come with a mountain of baggage, of preferences, of fears, of assumptions, and so on and so forth. We are complex ingredients. You throw in me into a spell, or you throw in you, and you're going to come out with very different outcomes because we're two different ingredients, and we are the main ingredient in any magic that we practice. And so you have to try things out to find out what actually does work for you, what resonates with you, what feels comfortable to you, what feels exciting to you, what feels deadly boring to you, and does deadly boring actually bring better results than not deadly boring? Maybe some people really, really lean into that as well. Is it more important that this stuff is old and original, or is it more important that it feels intuitively right? Different people just need different things in order to vibe with the magic that they're doing. But ultimately, from my perspective, since we are all the thing that makes the magic happen, ultimately what's most important is to try. And once
Mm.
people try, most people tend to find that whatever it is that they tried, yeah, it turned out to work amazingly. Yeah, well, yeah, because you tried and it came from you. So yeah, sure. This is yeah. It's exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. And as I say, the sort of philosophy from it, it's just bubbly and exciting. Yeah.
When I listen to you, that feels so hopeful for people just starting out on an occult journey. I know for myself, when I first got started, it felt like I needed to read a stack of books from the floor to the ceiling just to enter the conversation at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I love the way you've centered it, more on finding what resonates with you and then getting started. So, towards that end, I wonder if we could get even more practical. If someone is listening to this and um, is starting from square one and is just interested in getting lay of the land and getting maybe started a little bit, obviously subscribe to Foolish Fish right now. That's
Obviously.
obviously step number one. And when you've done that, what comes next? What would you do?
Listen, the Gallery of Magic gets a lot of flack. They are a group of anonymous practitioners who put out some print-on-demand books on Amazon around 2013. I guess they started 2013, 2014, around that time. And they became extremely popular because their stuff was accessible and tangibly worked. Very short books. My recommendation is to buy them on Kindle. And I don't like all of their books, by the way. I find some of them to be quite ineffective and some of them to be extremely effective. But my recommendation to absolute beginners is usually to pick up one of their earlier books. The specific book that I like to recommend is called the Magical Cash Book, because we, as human beings in the 21st century, grow up being told over and over again that magic is not real. You've got to be a child to believe that magic is real. If you believe magic is real, there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Magic is clearly not real, etc., etc. And all of this builds up in your unconscious mind as just the message that magic doesn't work. And whenever you get evidence of magic working, you are immediately undermined by this avalanche of information from your unconscious mind going, that was just a coincidence. Yeah, that was not real. You misinterpreted what was going on. It could have happened in many other ways. Right. And so the more that happens, the less you trust your ability to make things happen, right? And some people just completely give up, or they start focusing on trying to prove to themselves that magic works instead of just doing magic for stuff that's important in their lives, right? And doing magic to prove that magic works doesn't tend to work. Yeah. Which is a shame, but that's the way it goes. Also, you can't get someone else to prove to you that magic works. It has to come to you. Your own magic is the only magic that you will ever trust. It's the only magic that will ever change your mind on magic working. I can tell you a million stories from my own experience, and you'll be like, "Yeah, well, he's delusional."
Right.
You have to experience it for yourself, and so I recommend that absolute beginners get the book by Damon Brand from the Gallery of Magic called The Magical Cash Book, because it is a very simple ritual that involves quite a lot of stuff that will be useful later on in your magical career. You're creating a magical object, right? You're creating this little book, with sigils on the front and sigils on the back. You're applying particular color to the front cover and a different color to the back cover, and you're kind of tracing or copying these strange-looking images, sigils, onto the front and onto the back of the cash book, and then you are speaking to an entity which is a genius. It's not a demon, right, which is going to put a lot of people off. It's not an angel, which is also going to put a lot of people off. It's a genius. It's just it's a spirit, right? It's a spirit that has probably been created from scratch, right? Somebody simply, or a group of people, thinking about what this entity could be, and then giving life to this thought. Right? This is one of the many occult practices, very, very popular in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, and others. But anyway, so this is likely what Nitika is, this entity, right? And you use the authority from invoking, or rather calling upon the authority of a higher being in order to ask Nitika to do this thing for you, which is kind of a very traditional thing to do in Solomonic magic, right? So again, quite a nice introduction to that mechanic, to that dynamic. And then you ask for a very specific sum of money. Now, there are details on what sum of money is a reasonable amount of money to ask for. It has to seem reasonable to you, and it has to be an amount of money that could, in fact, come to you, that there are, in fact, channels for that money to come to you, right? If you're asking for $1 million, but you never, for example, you're not in the habit of buying lottery tickets, or you don't have a very, very wealthy relative who's on the way out, or whatever, right? So there are rules, right? You can't ask, generally with magic, you can't ask for the impossible. Yeah, I see magic. I'll come back to the magic couchboard in a second. But this is important, I think. I see magic as a way of increasing your chances. So this is really important. It's a way of increasing your chances. So why don't we do magic to win the lottery? It's because increasing your chances with a lottery ticket still doesn't scratch the surface, right? You can increase your chances 1,000-fold, and you're still nowhere near getting to that 1%, right? Nowhere near. So there are things that make sense to use magic on, and there are things that really you're just wasting your time with. That said, that's my opinion. That's my experience with magic. Some people disagree with me, and power to them, and good luck to them. I'm not persuaded. But yes, so the magical cash book is great because you are asking for a very specific amount of money. Let's say you're asking for $367. Yeah, that's not nothing. Yeah, it's a sizable amount of money, and it's a very specific number. And when that exact number of dollars arrives, it says something to your unconscious mind. It says, hey, you know all that information that says that magic doesn't work? Here's one bit of information that says that magic does work, right? It's not enough. It's not enough to kind of counterbalance that mountain on the other side, but it is a step one. Yeah, it is step one, and then you can add a step two, you can add a step three, you can add more and more on the other side, so that eventually the two sides of those scales balance out, and then eventually it'll start tipping the other way, at which point your magic becomes a lot easier because your unconscious mind isn't constantly fighting you, Yeah.
It's so fascinating, the way that you're describing the magician's journey is sort of, at least at first, it really is this practice of changing your model of reality.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Not easy, especially, it might be easy when you're 7, but by the time you're grown at all, it's like really hard to change, not the way that you conjecture reality to be, even not like the way if you were in an argument, you'd be like, oh, I think magic is real, or, I think God is alive and magic is afoot, as the song goes. You can say those things, but can that be the instinct in your body, like the animal of you does it believe it and act like that? It's so, and that really draws me into why I think occultism and really getting a grasp on it is such an important message, is that we live in a time where I think that reality is really up for grabs in a way that it hasn't been in centuries, and that especially with the information technology we have now, being able to have a little control and health around reality and how you're shaping it is, I mean, these are like key skills. And
Yes.
I don't know if there's anything like occultism that actually just gets right there. That skill. Yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson was writing Prometheus Rising. I'm not exactly sure when he was writing this, but I want to say late 70s, maybe early 80s. Might have been even late 80s, I'm not sure. But he was predicting exactly this moment, right, where reality, exactly as you just described, is up for grabs. You know, it's constantly changing. And I see Robert Anton Wilson as one of the founders of the so-called chaos magic movement. I know that Peter J. Carroll is mostly credited with that, and indeed, yeah, yes. But I see Robert Anton Wilson as really foundational to that, because he understood the mutable nature of reality and the mutable nature of our mind, and how important it is to be able to be flexible with our mind, you know, to be able to enter a profound belief and then to exit that profound belief as necessary, you know, as it's relevant, as it's useful, you know, and then make use of the belief, and then to step back out of it. And this is it's a core part of so-called chaos magic, is to be able to take on a belief that is not core to you, whatever you means, but to take on that belief, because with that belief comes a particular power, a particular usefulness, right? And then you make use of that. But it's not like while you believe it, you're like, okay, I'm believing it now because it's useful, or what. No, you are fully, you know, that. So it's a meditative practice. It's quite a strange one, possibly a difficult one to maintain healthily, possibly. But all of this, I'm going to say, is possibly useful as tools. This is another, possibly could be useful to mention, is the separation, the dichotomy, the two-part aspect of Theurgy and Thaumaturgy. So is it okay to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm just excited.
So, big words, huh? Theurgy essentially is going to be the path. Yeah, it's going to be the reason why you're doing magic in the first place. It's your betterment. Yeah, it's your improvement. It's your reaching for a more divine version of you. That can take many forms, and different people are going to understand something slightly different from the word theurgy, right? Some people will understand it to be becoming God, and, you know, there's a way of understanding this where it's absolutely accurate, and there's a way of understanding this that is absolutely inaccurate. So what does becoming God in fact mean? Yeah, We definitely don't have time to go into that. But what I will say is that theurgy is absolutely about becoming a more perfect version of yourself, right? Just self-improvement. I don't think anyone can really say that that's a bad idea. Generally,
Right.
I think we can agree, yeah, becoming a better version of yourself is a good goal. And then so the theurgy is about realizing what that better version of you might be and striving towards that, right? So the act of discovering what that better version of you might be and of the so-called great work of becoming that, following your divine calling, as it were. Yeah, that's a a difficult thing to do, and it's a difficult path. So then you've got the other flip side of that coin, which is thaumaturgy. So theurgy, thaumaturgy, and thaumaturgy literally means miracle making. Right, so it's your magic that affects the world around you, and so these work hand in hand, because once you've found out what your life calling might be, you can then use thaumaturgy to help you along that path, right? To help you along that divine path, to the perfect you. And yeah, and you can really make yourself a lot more comfortable along the way, kind of thing, right? When it makes sense to, because sometimes precisely a little bit of friction is exactly what you need in order to become your more perfect self.
Don't you hate that? Don't you
I
just
know.
hate that when it's like, you gotta do it the hard way this time?
So I mean, we like to hold on to things as well, don't we? So, and sometimes those things that we're holding on to, it's really not good for us. So whether we use thaumaturgy or not, sometimes those things get taken away for us so that we can actually make our ways. And thaumaturgy helps with feeling okay, I guess, when those things get taken away from us. you know, take the scissors out of the baby's hands. Yeah. It's like, no, I needed those scissors. Yeah. Here's a lolly. Okay, no, I'm fine now. Thanks. So yeah. Those two worked really well together. Now, there are some people who will go, forget about theurgy. It's all about the thaumaturgy, and those people find themselves. Listen, the people that I've spoken to who have only focused on the thaumaturgy have tended to be deeply dissatisfied people, right? Because they haven't had a goal, they haven't had a path, right? It's just, what do I need? Get what I need, right? So it's a very, very self-centered life with no direction. Yeah. So all of these powers to make things happen to themselves, but really no goal, no ultimate outcome other than more, more comfort, more enjoyment, which is fun for a bit. And then it's like, yeah, but I can get it whenever I want. Okay, well, what's next, kind of thing, right? And then on the other hand, you've got the theurgists who reject the thaumaturgy and go, no, it needs to be hard. I know where I'm supposed to go, and using thaumaturgy is it's black magic, and I should not touch that, and I need to be uncomfortable. Whatever you need. um, So I see as the two really working hand in hand. I can absolutely see how, for example, working with celestial beings, those celestial beings have got no concept of what it's like to be incarnate. And so they're going to be like, what you going to work with chthonic, of the ground beings, beings who are very much embodied, very much, so like the spirit of the land, the spirit of the local river, the spirit of, whatever it might be, but also so-called demons. I mean, okay, I don't want to go into a long thing about demons, but demons do scare a lot of people. But of course, ultimately,
I wonder why.
right,
They,
right,
bad
right.
brand. They have really bad
Absolutely,
branding. Yeah.
absolutely, and to a degree, some of them absolutely with good reason. If you approach some of these demons, they are feral beings, and if you just approach them as if they were a friend, you, you wouldn't do that to a wolf or to a tiger. It doesn't make them evil, but nevertheless, you're going to get burnt if you approach them just like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Hi, but I like you. um, um, But I think it's important to understand that a lot of so-called demons, and I think it's important to call them so-called demons, is that they are a multitude of different things. They might be a land spirit that has been demonized, right? Because, of course, when the church took over, it's like, yeah, anything that's not God or, all right, we'll make allowances for angels. Anything that's not that is a demon. So your local tribal gods, who no longer have a tribe to worship them, your local, I mean, whatever it might be, sometimes even a ghost, so like an not rested, the restless dead, right? And so on and so forth, all end up being demons. So some of them are actually very sociable, some of them are actually really cool, and they'll make very chill deals with you, like, yeah, if you eat an apple for me, then yes, I can teach you maths. There we go. Like, is that evil? Is it evil though? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there are some demons that have a very different sense of morality from what we might have, but some of them, yeah, they're just local spirits who have been demonized. So yeah. Anyway, not sure where I was going with that. I can't even remember. But
well, I love this. I love this move into understanding spiritual beings, the ones that we can interact with in this weird place that's not quite in the like range of light that our eyes pick up, or it's not in the part of reality that's maybe normal or like every day. But they are these beings, and like any other being you meet, it's just a lot different if you come with an open heart and like sort of understanding it from their perspective versus coming to them with prejudice and
completely
feeling you understand who they are already. That being said, it's also because you can't directly see them. I think a lot of people have fear about getting into the occult in general because it's sort of like, well, what am I going to get myself into?
Of course. And this is okay, a very quick interlude here. This is a second book that I recommend that people read. In fact, it's even better if you can read it first. It's another book by the Gallery of Magic, and once again, I'll say it again, I don't endorse all of their books, but just one or two of them happen to be amazing, and their book called Magical Protection is a book that I recommend that everyone getting started in the occult reads, because it gives you two very interesting practices. The first is called the Master Ritual, which is a ritual that you perform every day for 33 days, if I remember correctly. It's only a short ritual. It takes about 10 minutes to do, but you do it every day for 33 days, and that's it. You never need to do it ever again. It builds a shield for you, right? It's not perfect shield, but it is a basic shield that you know is there. And so, you then can be a little bit more confident in approaching certain things that you would feel afraid of approaching. And I'll say it again, never approach something that you are afraid of. If you're afraid of something, learn about it. Yeah. Usually when you learn about that thing, you won't be afraid about it anymore, and then you'll be able to approach it with respect rather than with fear. If you're approaching anything with fear, it tends to end badly. Don't do it. Just learn about it until you're not afraid of it anymore, and then approach it. So that's the first ritual in there. And then the second ritual that is really nice to know is called the sword banishing rite. And this one I like to attribute actually to a magic practitioner called Jacobus G. Svart, S-V-A-R-T. The Gallery of Magic are not very good at crediting the sources of their magic, unfortunately. It's got positive and negative aspects to that. The positive aspect, the negatives are obvious, but the positive aspect is that it gets people to do the magic now. It's not telling you the history of where this came from before you actually, that you might worry, oh my goodness, I don't know enough about, where it's come from. I don't know, what the original sources are. Now I need to look up the original. No, it just do this and you'll get the result. And nice. So this is really nice for getting the magician out of the proverbial armchair, right? Actually practicing some magic. So that's what I recommend for one of the two first books to pick up, and I always recommend to get the Kindle edition. The paperbacks are awful. Gotcha. Yep. Even if you don't, especially if you don't have a Kindle device, just get the Kindle application on your mobile phone and download it there. That's really the best way to consume those books. I just wanted to finish because I remembered now while we were talking about demons is that the demons are the opposite of these celestial beings, right? These celestial beings have never been incarnate. They've never had to pay a bill. They've never had to take the kids to school. They don't know what it's like to be lonely, those kinds of things. So these very mundane concerns that humans experience, but these celestial beings, they know it exists, but they can't relate. Right. And so they'll give you these tasks. Okay, all you need to do is go and sit on top of the mountain for 7 years and meditate and you'll be great. And you're like, yeah, well, that's not going to work with my work schedule. I don't think I can get the time off, So you've got this coming from one side, and then on the other side, you've got the chthonic being these so-called demons who are, much more interested in the chthonic experience, but have no concept of the transcendent. And so for them, it's completely irrelevant. Like, why would you meditate? Why would you kind of reach out to something larger than yourself? It's all here. There is nothing else. So you've got these two opposing recommendations, right, from two sides. And I see human beings as being the bridge between the two, right, as being the kind of the child of the divorced parents, kind of making the connection in between the two and saying, hey, I appreciate what you're saying, but I do need to pay the bills, and I appreciate what you're saying and what you're even doing for me. That's great, but I ultimately I do have a spirit. I do have like a transcendent aspect to me that is important as well. So I see the occult as a really nice way of being congruent with both of those sides of the human coin.
Mm.
Mm,
Beautiful.
mm.
It has me wanting, with the last of our time,
Yeah.
really wanting to drop into you as a person entering into the mysteries. So it's my understanding that you weren't born knowing all of this, that you had
Turns
a
out.
journey. Yeah. And yeah, I guess I want to link the theory into real lived experience. People go through these transformative experiences. And I'm curious about what took you from someone who had what I can only assume is kind of the normal materialist worldview that we inherit from the TV and
Mm,
now, I don't know, Instagram or something.
sure.
Yeah. How did you go from that to Foolish Fish?
Mm, mm. So there was a pivotal moment in my life, and I made a video about it. It's quite a long story. I'm afraid we probably don't have time for it all today, but um, uh, this this very strange, extremely strange event culminated in me being saved from like a physically dangerous situation in exactly the way that I'd asked to be saved, right? But the details were so perfect. Right, just everything was exactly as I described it should happen. And that really shook me to the core, because the likelihood of it all happening within, my saying, I need this to happen within the next 5 minutes, and for it exactly to happen within the next 5 minutes was just earth-shattering for me. It made no logical sense for it to have worked, and so I needed to find out the core mechanics of all of this. And
Mm,
just going, oh, God interceded. Of course, that's an appealing, easy way out of that question, and ultimately, I do believe that that's how you might condense all the stuff that I discovered. Yeah,
mm,
but I was interested in the mechanics. I was interested in the in the repeatability of the experiment, and in the shareability as well. And in order to
mm,
be able to share it, I needed to learn the language of it. And so, yeah, so that's, I guess, when I started learning about the various world religions. And then from there, digging into the esoteric forms of the world religions, and then discovering some of the forbidden practices of the esoteric forms of world religions, that were pointing to the evidence that I was after, kind of thing, right?
mm,
Um, and then I realized that people were using certain words to describe certain experiences. So, how to actually have a conversation with them. Yeah, I had to learn the jargon. And so I learned the jargon by, reading the grimoires, so that I had the same points of reference as these other people.
mhm,
Yeah, a lot of people try to learn magic by learning the jargon and trying to make their experience match the jargon that they've learned. Um, my experience is that the talented magic practitioners out there are the ones who have tried to do their own thing, reached out to the universe themselves, not with someone else's method, not with a group's method, not with a, with an organization, not with, one thing or another, but who have tried to reach out of their own accord, have had an experience, and then who have gone to find out, oh, other people have had like, I'm listening to the words that she's saying, and she seems, like the words she's saying seem to map onto my experience. But of course, we don't really have words for these experiences because they're strange experiences. It's not just like, I'm hungry. Everyone can relate to that, right? These are strange experiences, and so it's difficult sometimes to map the right words to them.
There's so much comes up for me there. Like, one is, I think a lot of spiritual seekers in the West mistakenly think that only in the East can you find a science of spiritual awakening, which,
Right.
I mean, no smoke. India has produced probably the most just beautiful offerings in the world. But though in the West we have that too, and it clicks into us in ways that, because of where we were born and raised, like, it's just clicks in. And I want people from the Western world to know that they have an abundant treasure house waiting for them, waiting for its children to come get the inheritance.
Yes.
But then, and then also, not having words for it. It's my experience when you start talking about things like ghosts or any paranormal thing or mystical stuff, the people who you would think are just the most normie, laced up people have had these bizarre, far out experiences, but it's almost like it's so compartmentalized because there's not words that they know.
Right.
That how would you even start a conversation? Yeah, so then people are walking around with like, well, I mean, that soccer mom has met God, and that, it's like, and that construction worker was abducted by aliens and shown the secrets of the universe, like, and they just don't have the language. And so as I'm hearing you talk about it, I feel this some kind of passion to like get the language to people.
Yes. Yeah. So my Foolish Fish channel, really the point of it was to normalize all of this, to kind of take away you've got to wear, black leather and mascara and eyeliner, and have, upside down crosses tattooed onto your cheeks in order for, for any of this, to be relevant to you. And I'm like, no, actually, I actually consider myself, this might come as a surprise, but I consider myself to be a Christian. As many Christians would not reciprocate the sentiment, but that's okay. I don't need their approval. I don't need their exceptions that my version of Christianity might be a Christianity as well. But I do consider myself to be Christian, I certainly came to all of this via, just reading the New Testament. That's literally how I came to all of this, which may also surprise some. But yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm curious too. What other? I know you do like a variety of things on Foolish Fish, like a variety of offerings, including like spiritual one-on-one discussions with people. And
it's true. Yes. Yeah.
So maybe here, you could say sort of
little plug.
People who are interested. Plug yourself.
Sure.
People who want more of Foolish Fish, which I'm sure there will be a lot. Like, how do they learn more through what you offer?
So there's a website, right? You can get to me through foolishfish.net, because fishnet, right? So foolishfish.net. You'll find everything that I do there. I do one-to-one video conversations, so you can have a conversation with me where you get to tell me all about your baggage, your past, your upbringing, and what you're trying to achieve. Maybe you're just trying to take the next step in your, maybe you've already discovered a lot of occult stuff and you want to know where to explore next. Or maybe you're just getting started and you've got no idea where to start and you just want some advice, what direction, because it's just overwhelming. There is so much, just as you were saying, the East, you go to India and everything is just like there's teachers left, right, and center. But in the West, there is just so much that's just not mainstream, and so it's not very well advertised. But once you get started, it's just like this plethora. And where do I start? Do I start, getting into astrology? Do I start getting into necromancy? Do I start getting into, divination with the tarot, the Kabbalah? Do I start, looking into some of the Eastern practices, even Tibetan Buddhism? Do I pick up a purba, or do I start, some planetary magic, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much going on. And so I can listen to what you like. I can listen to what your upbringing was like, what your prejudices are, what you are comfortable with, what you are a little bit afraid of. And I can say to you, well, listen, I think that if you did this and read this book and that for the next year, you'll end up in a very different place from the place where you are today, and possibly in a place where you are able to choose your next step from a stable position, you feel like you know what you're getting into rather than this kind of vast unknown. Some people just want to get a tarot read from me, in which case that's absolutely fine as well. Some people just go through whatever it is, a difficult life experience, and they want to know what is next for them, and I'll give them some ideas of what the near future holds. But then I'll also go a little bit further than that, just looking at their life purpose and just expanding a little bit beyond, is my ex going to come back? Which we can look into as well, by the way, if you really want to. But we tend to take it a little bit further, right? So that it's useful to you on the very long term. And do courses as well. Yeah. Yes. Monthly courses. So that's all on the website as well. So if you'd like to just join in we've been doing the magic and mysteries of various planets, of the classical planets, over the past year, and among other things. But yes, that's been a particularly exciting one. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Denis.
My great pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
With that, the container is now closed.